Hey YouTube, it's Ron again. Just doing a quick update. It's February 19th, 2014. Got some railroading done. Started some of the upper sub-road bed for the upper deck. This is all going to be the narrow gauge. It'll come out from the staging area. I'll get back there and show you the incline that I built back there in a little bit. And this will be the uppermost part of my layout here. That's actually about my shoulder height. So I'll have little step-ups for people. That'll be the logging camp. This here, I'm debating if I'll put a passing siding here or a spur to a little mine or a watering water tank to fill up the engines. This section here where the level is, this will be definitely a passing siding here for a runaround to go to the mine, which is going to be back here. This will all be eventually mountains hiding that all back in there. You won't be able to see any of that. What else here? Everything down below is pretty much the same. Well, over here, actually, I did get some new acquisitions. These are Blackstone engines and Blackstone hoppers. This is the blue boiler. I guess they call it the Russian style. That's a 280, I think C19. I get them undecorated. Here's another 280 C19 undecorated. They will be lettered for my railroad eventually. I picked these two hoppers up, really good price at Springfield, Massachusetts at the Amherst show. Gotta say, if you live in the area, or even if you don't live in the area and you have some little extra cash and some little extra time for the weekend, go to the Amherst show. It's tremendous. They got pretty much everything you could think of there to do with model railroading. But these were a good price. This one I purchased myself here. That was a Christmas present to myself. And the blue boiler was a payment, I guess you would say, by a friend of mine. I'm helping him finish off his basement so eventually he can get a layout in his basement. He'll be doing a Bell Railroad based in New Jersey along the Delaware River. But that's payment for helping him finish off his basement and build a bathroom and stuff in his basement. I have all the caboose ground throws in. I do have the tips painted. So green, I got this tip from my friend Tom, his layout. I'm sure a lot of other people do this, but the main route is green and the secondary route is red. So whenever you're leaving the town or whenever you're done, you should always return the turnouts to green before you head out of town. Makes it easy, visual, quick. You can just scan, and if you see any red, you're like, hey, I gotta flip that back. But I got that on all the reachable turnouts. This turnout here is controlled by their Fast Tracks turnouts, controlled by their Fast Tracks Bullfrog the throws. And the rods are all in the front here. You can see these red actuating rods here. They're a little loose right now, but eventually when I get my fascia all the way up front here, these will get pulled to the front. Probably slightly recessed into the fascia so they don't stick out. That's extended there. When they're pushed in, that's how far they go in. So they come out probably about an inch and a quarter, I guess. This upper one here is for the turnout on my switchback. It's this one here. That is a Bullfrog sideways attached to the Sidewinder by Fast Tracks. That works well. The reason I did that is because when you pull the actuators up front here, when they pull it towards you, it's going to go to the track closest to you. And when you push it in, it goes to the track that's furthest away from you. And I'm trying to keep that consistent throughout the layout. So this top one that controls the switchback version, because of the way the scenery and the track in front here would be in the way, the rod couldn't come out the front to keep that consistent. So when I saw that the Sidewinder reverses the throw direction, because I have to have the actuator rod come out of the back and wrap around and go through one of their supports here underneath the main layout down below Gasco Yard to the pull, I noticed that the Sidewinder reversed it. So it wasn't so much that I needed the extra space, because it shortens the height of the turnout throw. As you can see, this one is the standard use of the Bullfrog. That's the one in Gasco Yard. You can see that operating. And this one up here is the sideways one with the Sidewinder, so that I can get the actuation up top working in the right direction. Speaking of the switchback, I do have that all hooked up. This is another actuator in the front, because I cannot reach this one controls. Runs all the way back through there. You see it running underneath to that Bullfrog back there. And that's a dual gauge turnout that I built. The diverging route is narrow gauge, and the main route going back down towards the bottom hole back there, that goes to my staging. It is dual gauge back there also. You've seen the 4-track staging for the standard. Eventually the 4-track staging goes to the right. Eventually to the left I'll probably make a probably like a 4-track staging for the narrow gauge. Debating on that. I do have a turnout back there that I made for that, in case I decide to do that eventually. But they're all controlled by the Bullfrogs. It's a good product, easy, fun to build and install. They all work fine. Anything new here? I think that's pretty much it. The switchback comes off of that dual gauge turnout in the back, meanders up the hill, up the mountain to this tail. The tail goes back into the scenery. This will be hidden by trees, and a tunnel will disappear, and it goes back a few more feet to right where the block is. That's where the track ends. I could actually probably throw in staging there too, because it goes just past the block wall. If I wanted to, I could put a 1-track, 2-track staging in that a little spur if I wanted to. Debating that will just end up making my staging area a little tighter, which I probably don't want to do. This one you can reach, so I do have a caboose throw on that. Again, it is painted. Red is the lesser route, secondary route, and the green is the main route. It'll meander up the hill again to that switchback. That's the one that's getting controlled by the Bullfrog. Along this tail, I mentioned in my last video that this section here will eventually cut back probably about a foot or so, and have a little dead end trestle come out just for visual interest in the whole valley area where the major trestle is going to be. I thought that would look kind of cool coming off the cliff and come into a dead end for the train to back up to. It is a long spur, so it's the tail of the switchback. So then it'll go up through the upper hole, punch through the block. I do have the homosote down, but I don't have the track in yet. Let's head back there to the staging room. I'll duck under here. And we'll come up over on this side here. Now we are in the staging room. This is the same hole that I showed. This is going to be narrow gauge coming out. At first when I put this down, the outside homosote was a little bit too tight, I think, so I put this inside one so I can ease the radius I just have a straight run all the way down. This is some Pico track because of the whole situation with the lack of track. I was using microengineering throughout, but it was hard to find. As many know, it's hard to find microengineering, but not as bad as Atlas. Atlas is having some problems. Hopefully they're getting it in. But this Pico, it's working fine. Let's continue here. I got the homosode all the way down to this point here. Here's some homosode that I cut. It's ready to get installed. This is the one with the curves in it, so I can bend it for radius. And that will poke out through this hole, and that's where it goes to the upper deck that I showed you in the beginning of the video. Very similar to down below. Here, this is my 4-track standard gauge staging area here. Again, that's split in the center right here. Track sensors on each side, track sensors on the end down there near the sander and down on that end. I'll have occupancy detectors. Let me duck under here and show you a full-on view of how it will look under here. So there, that's the end view of the staging area. Right here, this turnout, this is that one that I mentioned that eventually I could make it. This one track, this lead goes to all standard. The 4 tracks. This one is narrow gauge, closest to the camera. That one will bend around, and I can put staging for narrow gauge here. Some short trains, but you don't need much for narrow gauge. If I wanted to, I could take this tail from the switchback and run it along this wall and put a 1 or 2 track, but then it would get tight in here. So I doubt I'm going to do that. I don't think I need that much staging on narrow gauge. Now let's get out of here. So that's just a quick view of what I've been doing. Mainly it's been upper deck construction, acquiring new toys, and getting the switchback in. Alright, don't forget to like, subscribe, tell your friends. Here you go. Got a new set of headphones and microphone. Hardwire plug-in for podcasts. I've been on a couple podcasts, and I listen in a lot to Model Rail Radio, hosted by Tom Barbalet, and some of the older ones, Chris Abbott. Several model railroaders that you may know constantly contribute to that show. It's a fantastic show. I highly recommend it if you have any kind of access to the podcasts. Look it up, Model Rail Radio, or you can go to modelrailradio.com for the website, and it'll tell you access, how to get to that. You'd have to, I don't know what you do with the Skype. It's all done through Skype. I think you just have to get in contact with Tom Barbalet. I'll put a link in the description down below the video. If anybody has any ideas on the upper logging area, any kind of track plan, it's from this point here to the end is 5 feet. It's about 18 inches deep. Quick track arrangements. I'm thinking about bringing it in simply just from this end, splitting it up into 2 spurs, maybe a run around just so I can get behind the cars and run around them. I'm debating if I want to have a little track go up back in there, because I do have some space back here that I could have like a little logging scene back in that area. Any ideas on that? This area is fairly set. Again, it's just a passing siding run around for the mine area, and about midpoint I'll have a turnout switch, whatever you want to call them, going this way to probably 2 tracks, possibly 3, most likely 2 for supplies to the mine, and also for the bins where the coal is going to get dumped into the hoppers. And it'll be small hoppers again, like this. So don't forget, like, subscribe, and keep model railroading.